good, everybody? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just wanted to give it a couple seconds, let everybody else join onto the call. Let me just make sure that you guys can hear me real quick as well before we get started. Let me just double check. But what is good, everybody? Let me just get everything situated on my end. I keep forgetting there's such like a long delay. All right, you guys can in fact hear me. All right, what's good, everybody? So my fault on that. There's like a giant delay. There's like a 10 to like almost 15-second delay. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys can hear me. So I had to like reorganize some of my programs and my microphone situation. But you guys can in fact hear me. So, and you guys can see me. So we'll be able to get started. So again, good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a great week so far. Sounds good? Perfect. I just wanted to make sure. But yeah, what's good, everybody? Hopefully everybody's having a good day, a great week as well. Today is Wednesday, the middle of the week. Also, some news coming out even today. We'll take a look at that, but I just wanted to get everyone on so that way we can get started all at the same time. What's good, everybody? I see some people joining on. I appreciate you guys so much for being on with me again. So whether you're a legacy student or not, I highly, highly, highly appreciate you. So again, good morning, everybody. So obviously I'm going to be jumping onto the charts, identifying any potential trade opportunities, answering any and all questions that you guys may have, and really helping you guys understand what's needed to become profitable within trading the Forex markets. So if you guys have any questions at any point, feel free to ask. There are some markets I do want to take a look at before we start taking, if there is some time to start taking requests for from you guys to see what markets you guys would like to take a look at. There are some fundamental factors that we need to speak on before we even look at some charts as well. So I want to make sure that we take that into consideration as well. But let me go into gold here. We're on gold real fast, but I do want to actually speak on gold and kind of like what's potentially going to happen because before we actually start looking at anything on a technical standpoint, we have to understand that right now we are looking, especially within like the next 45 minutes or so, we have red level folder news at 8:15 and also at 10 a.m. And then later on, we also have for 2 p.m. as well, the FOMC statement. So we have to be extremely, extremely careful with trading any U.S. crosspairs right now. So looking at gold and any U.S. crosspair, including indices such as US30, SPX 500, and NAS 100, or SPX 500 and NAS 100, those are going to be affected as well. So we have to be very cautious as to how we manage any of those type of trades that we're looking at. But we still can look at them on a technical standpoint and identify some possibilities before the news happens. And maybe, I wouldn't say get lucky, but if we can identify something to perfection and in detail, we might be able to snag some pretty good opportunities even before the news happens. So real quick, I do want to go over gold really fast before we go over anything, because obviously this is one of my favorite markets to trade. And there's a few things I do want to kind of speak on with this, because it's giving us this weird, if we go into the into the 4-hour time frame, it doesn't necessarily look like too much of like a consolidated or ranging market. But when we go down to a smaller time frame, we'll be able to see things a little bit more clear. Now, I'm drawing this bullish trend line because it does show a break of said trend line. Now, I don't know if I really want to consider this to be a significant trend line as of yet. I will consider that later on, but I'm looking at the smaller time frame and I'm seeing a inverted head and shoulders pattern here, right? And I'm going to go into detail with this, but the reason why I'm not looking at strong sells as of yet is because we are looking at this inverted head and shoulders pattern, which is a bullish reversal pattern. I will draw the neckline out here real quick for us. Actually, I'll draw it just like that. So we do have the neckline of that initial pattern, and we can also, it'll be a little bit off. I really don't like my zones being so weird like that. I would honestly put my zone up here as the neckline, but I'm trying to incorporate this as well, but I'm not going to because it just looks really off. So I'm going to leave our structure here, and if it breaks above, then we have a stronger idea as well. but I'm not really looking at those sells as of yet. The reason being is because with this inverted head and shoulders pattern in a bullish market, it could give us an early indication that gold or the US dollar may in fact lose some strength during news. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen, but I'm using the clues that the market is leaving behind. Now, if that is not the case, let's say this market does not break above said trend line here or even above this structure, then it'll change my mind. So we're looking at two different ideas with this, and I know it's a little weird to see that, but I like to go into a trade understanding, or go into a market rather, when I'm marking something up, I need to understand every aspect. What are the possibilities of, if that's broken, okay, then that inverted head and shoulders pattern is in fact valid. Or if this level is respected, then we know that this inverted pattern is no longer something we need to take into consideration, and then this will now be considered our sell zone. So I'm going to say potential sell zone. If this is not broken, and this is just leading into news, right? Because what could end up happening is, let's say the market comes, or the news comes out, and we have gold kind of like pop to the upside, but still manages to close right below our structure here, then I'll start looking for strong potential sells. Now, obviously, if this is broken to the upside, we're not going to be looking for that possibility, but I'm waiting to see what news is going to do, and we will be able to see that together because it's at 8:15. So not too far behind. So we'll be able to identify at least this news release at this area. So I kind of wanted to do this with everybody live, see if this structure is in fact respected. If it is, we'll go ahead together and place sells. If not, if this level is broken, then obviously we understand that we should be looking for a different idea. We'll start changing our bias, even leading into the news later on, as buys. And it's a good thing that we identify this, because we'll see what other markets are going to be doing, such as Euro USD, GU, and others. But that's just to start us off with, just so that way everybody is not just waiting in a starting soon page with music in the background. I just wanted to make sure that I'm giving you guys some ideas before we get started. But again, good morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being on. If there's any markets you guys have or you would like for me to take a look at, feel free to let me know. I'll definitely take a look. Obviously, because I mean, gold's really the only thing I would really see as a potential trade right now. Other markets like Euro JPY, something I was looking at previously, consolidated, not really giving us much. So in some markets, we're not getting the type of trade signals that you would like. So if there's anything that you guys see, if there's anything that you guys would like for me to take a look at, definitely let me know, and I'll go ahead, because everything I was looking at is kind of stuck in its own little range. Let me actually go ahead and take a look at AUD okay. So this was a previous trade that I gave to students, but I was looking at a potential re-entry on this, and it's literally right at that area for the most part. So I'm going to move my structure. I'm going to cheat a bit because we know that the structure is there. Let me move my trend line a little bit further down. So right now, we might, so you guys can actually, if you have your computers on, if you're on the charts yourselves, you can actually go ahead and mark up AUD the way that I currently have it. The reason being is because I actually will be looking at a potential sell from this area. So you guys can actually look at this. And I just wanted to jump on this really fast before we continued, because I figured that was coming right back. So I'm adding my confluences. So look at this. And I see you guys, I see you, somebody in the chats looking for AUD CAD. So yes, I will take a look at AUD CAD. What is your question on AUD CAD? What is it that you would like for me to look at with AUD CAD? What is it that you are confused at with AUD CAD? I want to know these things, so I speak on relevance. So just give me a chart. Let me know your question as well. So what is it that you would like to understand and know about AUD CAD? And then I'll definitely take a look at that right after I look at AUD CHF, because they might be correlated. If we're looking at some potential sells on AUD CHF, there might be a correlated idea with AUD CAD, right? Because it has an Aussie cross pair within it. But I do currently right now, if you guys can, if you would like, you should definitely mark up your chart the way that I have AUD CHF marked up. So this is going to be considered our sell kill zone. Because what we're looking at right now is, again, we have now identified that this market is creating lower lows and lower highs. This is a high point, that's a lower high, lower low, lower low, lower high, lower low. I can keep on going, right? You can see that the market is now creating more selling pressure. And we can identify where those sells will occur by using just simple trend lines, structure, fibs, and candlestick patterns. So my trend line right here being connected by more than 3 points. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're looking for 5, right? So this is what I mean about allowing your market to develop, right? If you're looking at this market to really, if you're looking for a trade, you need to let your market develop. So this is exactly what I mean about allowing your market to develop. You have to, one, let it reach a level of significant structure. We're there, right? What used to be a level of support here is now being retested. And if we look even further left, that structure is even more valid. If we can see that we also have confluence of the 38.2 or any fib ratio for that matter, we understand that there's another level of resistance there. If we add that trend line, we can then determine that there's even a stronger point of reference there as well. But we're not going to place a trade yet because 1, the trend line's not met. 2, the candles have not shown us a potential sell as of yet. So I do think that once we reach this area within this markup, we should be looking for potential sells. So if you guys can, go ahead and mark up your charts in this manner so that way you can understand what's needed to like really identify or have a correct markup for a potential entry, right? Because right now we can see that this is going to look for more sells, at least back down to this area of structure here. So we have a long way to go. So I do think that if anything, you guys should mark up your chart like this for AUD CHF. Now you're asking, is it a potential sell or buy? I will never answer that. If you ask me that question, I will never answer it. The reason being is because you have to answer that yourself. Look at it. You can't just go like ask somebody buy or sell. I will never answer that question because you have to understand if you're looking at a chart, you'll be able to answer that yourself. It's not hard. If you were to look at this chart right now, I don't know how to say your name, so I do apologize. But like, what is it looking like right now? So we'll go to AUD CAD. I'll give you that. What is AUD CAD doing? You tell me. What is this market actually doing? Because that's really important. You have to actually look. You have to do some work, right? Look at what this market is currently doing. If you are looking at this, is it up? Is it down? That you could answer yourself. And the reason why I say that is because the one thing everybody wants to everybody wants to know how to enter a market. Is it up? Is it down? Am I buying or am I selling? My fault. I'm like adjusting my little desk setup here. So everybody just wants to know entry, but you don't know how to formulate the idea for it. So the way that you formulate that idea is by actually looking at the chart. So what is it currently doing? If we use common sense, we can see that from these highs to these lows, it was up here before, but now it's down here. So that could be an idea of saying, well, the market is currently selling, right? So if that market is currently selling, I'm just on the 1 hour time frame. I'm not looking at the higher time frame right now. I know the higher time frame is currently buying, right? With it like being on the daily and the weekly and everything. That's more of a bullish market. But I know you're not looking at that time frame because if you were, you would have a strong idea of what's potentially happening or what is happening rather, right? You have to take a look. So you tell me. I'm not going to give you the answer because that's just giving you like the easy way out. I'm here to actually teach and educate, not just give you the answers to the test. I want you to be able to answer the questions on that test yourself. Be self-sufficient, be profitable, right? That's my goal. So if you can't determine whether this is currently buying or selling, you need to ask different types of questions on how can you determine whether it's a buy or sell? How can you determine the trend? Things like that. That'll actually help you become more profitable, I promise. But I'll come back to this and I'll give you the answer if you give me some feedback. I'm just going to call you, how do you say that name? I'm sorry. I don't even mean to be rude. I just don't know how to pronounce that. It's in a downtrend. Currently, yes. So you've answered, so 50% of your job is done there. So, right? So thank you for answering. We'll be able to continue with this. I thought you left me for a second. So if we're looking at this and you're saying that it is a downtrend, you've answered your own question. You see how easy that was? So you don't have to ask, is it a buy or sell? You've answered your own question. It looks like it's going up. If from where? If you're talking about this, that is not going up. That is called a correction. This, and I'm just focusing based off of this time frame, right? I know on higher time frames it's more bullish. That'll become bullish at specific points. I don't think it's going to be bullish right now, so you could probably look for continued sells, right? Because look at what this market is doing. This is not going up. This is actually an impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction. You can see the market creating lower lows, lower highs, right? Actually, can I do this? What's that? Zigzag. Oh wow, I didn't even realize like it'll look like that. But look, even this little indicator, it's a zigzag indicator. It actually should just show you like the actual impulses and corrections. I don't know why it's not, or like the highs and the lows. But you can even see just with that indicator, like rocket science is going down. That line is pointing down. So the most common sense answer, right, you have to understand is look at the chart. What is it currently doing? Is it going lower? Is it going up? We can see it's going lower. This is an impulse down. If that is an impulse lower, creating a new low, what is that dictating? That sellers are probably still within the market. So if you have an impulse, what's after an impulsive move? A correction. So if you have a impulsive move that is now correcting, that does not mean that the market is going up. That means the market is giving you an opportunity to now sell once again. Where do you think the market is going to sell from, Jay? That's why I'm asking buy, sell. Use common sense. Look at the market. Where do you think it's going to sell from? If you use your tools, if you actually look, you'll be able to answer that yourself. Look at that. Now, I don't necessarily think that the trend line that I'm going to draw out is going to match. I'm just eyeballing it for right now. Let's see. Yeah, I don't like that. The only reason why I don't like it is because you don't have, there's one touch, two touch, and on that third touch, basically, there's a break. I don't like that. It's not really a valid trend line, in my opinion. So I'm not going to add that. But, I mean, you have a lot of confirmation kind of in this area, right? You have to look at it. You can't just say buy, sell. You have to actually look. Is it going down? If the market is going lower, then that answers 50% of your question. If it's selling, if the market's selling, then it's probably going to continue to sell. Now, the only thing you need to identify is where's it going to sell from. Trading is not hard. We can make it very difficult, right? We can make it as hard as we want. We can start understanding these weird strategies and having all these different indicators and have systems that look like this. And you don't have to have that at all. But I do think if we look at AUD CAD, it's probably going to continue to sell. Now, this might be your sell kill zone. So let's write that down. I'll say potential sell kill zone. So potential sell kill zone. That is what I think about AUD CAD. I think from 094336, that's my insights. That's very specific. Let me see. 9433333336. Let me see. Yeah, I mean that's very much a valid area as well. This is why, like I always say, potential kill zone. I always have a zone, not a specific point, because if I look at a specific point and it doesn't reach that area, I'm not going to look at it the same. So like if I look at, I'm just going to say like, let's say it's right here, and you're looking at that and it doesn't reach that area, and you're not paying attention to what's currently happening, let's say even here at the 618, not considering that even though it's not all the way up here, it is still in fact respecting structure, because this candle is still respecting previous support, these wicks here. So that could still very much be used as a level of structure and also potential entry. But you could be very much right as well in the aspect of it reaching these highs and selling from there as well. That's why I always say potential kill zone. I don't have a specific spot, so like you can see my zone's pretty steep here. Usually when I'm marking up my chart and I look at structure, my structure is usually pretty specific like that. But in essence, where I'm looking at a whole area of structure over here where there's a lot of price to be played with, I'll look at the entire price zone and then I'll dictate where my entry would be based off the candles, right? The candles would be my confirming factor of when I'm going to sell or if I decide to sell this market, if it does show that. If anybody's wondering what candlestick patterns, if I'm looking at anything specific and what time frame, I don't look at that type of stuff in the sense of specifics, right? I'm taking whatever clues the market is leaving behind. If it's telling me, if it's giving me the clues at the 618, I'll take the clues at the 618, being whatever candlestick pattern that it gives me, as long as it is a bearish variance. If you can find that on the 1 hour, great. If you can find variance on the 4 hour and daily, even better. But if you scale down to a smaller time frame and you're seeing bearish variance there as well, you could definitely take that into consideration. But you want to see some type of candlestick confirmation anywhere within this zone. So that's what I'll be waiting for with AUD-CAD. So if you're wondering what's going to happen with AUD-CAD, I believe that it may. Let me see if we have Aussie news. Okay. Because I know we have a lot of news today, or at least for the US dollar. I just wanted to make sure there was no red level Aussie news. So yeah, with this not going to be affected by, or hopefully won't be affected by any of the news that occurs today, you should be looking for continued sells. You know what I mean? Like it's not, once you jump onto a chart and you do a little bit of the markup, you see a lot, right? It becomes a lot more clear. So make sure you understand that. You know what I mean? Don't just say buy, sell now, right now or later. Like you have to mark it up. You have to get a strong understanding, and that's it. This is the strong understanding. You don't have to have a lot on your chart. You don't have to have a million and one things to really tell you what's going to happen. You don't have to have your chart look like this with all the different types of structure and trend lines. I know I do this all the time, but this is not what your chart should look like, because if it does, you're going to overcomplicate what you're looking at and you're not going to know where to actually enter. So always keep it very simple, right? I know we're currently in a seller's market. This is my level of structure that could be respected or is in fact being respected. I'm now going to add some more confluence. I'm going to add my fib, swing high, swing low. And I'm going to identify this as my sell kill zone. Obviously, it can push up higher. If it does, I won't be selling from here. The candlesticks will dictate that, right? Because if I still see continued respect of the 618 and within this zone, and I get my bearish variance, then I'm going to look for sells. But if I get a bullish engulfing candle or breaks above it a little bit higher, then I'll start getting more specific and change my zones. See how I did that? All I'm identifying is actions at specific levels of price. And those confluences, such as a trend line or your fib ratios at structure, will give you the best clue. So I'm just seeing what the market is giving us. But I do think that AUD-CAD, continued sells. Well explained, thank you, no problem. But yeah, any other questions? Anybody else? What other markets do you guys want to take a look at, if anything? Let me go ahead and let me see what I want to see what gold's doing. Okay, still at that spot. So this is just and just in case anybody's wondering, I was looking at gold earlier. I did explain that I'm looking if the news, right? If news comes out and we cannot break above this area, I will be looking for sells. But I'm not so heavy on that. I'm not heavy on the sells because there is in fact a inverted head and shoulders pattern. So that is a buying indication. So I'm just waiting to see what initially happens. Let me see. And what should we do to identify lower time frames? What should we do to identify lower time? What do you mean by that? Like identify lower time frames? The same thing. You're not changing. There's literally nothing different. Whatever you do on the higher time frames, you're doing on the smaller time frames, and you identify on the smaller time frames. If you find a pattern on the smaller time frame, if you can call a spade, you call it a spade. So if I can see right now that I'm on the 5-minute time frame on gold and that's an bearish engulfing candlestick, then call it. a bearish engulfing candlestick. You can use that in your toolbox as a, confirmation for your trade, but you're not doing anything different. You're not calling things different. You're literally doing the same thing. You can draw a trend line. This is not going to be accurate, but I'm just saying, like, you can draw the same trend lines. You can go ahead and identify structure the same way, right? You're not switching anything up. This is structure on the 5-minute time frame. That's the only difference. The only difference is on the 5-minute, you can see that structure. On the 4-hour, you can't, right? That is the only thing. Should we have to follow longer time frame? That's still a very vague question. You have to use all time frames. You have to understand every time frame. It's called time frame confluence. You must have one time frame tell you one thing and the others tell you the same exact thing. So if I'm on the daily, and I'm just using this as a reference, right? If I'm on the daily and I say, well, damn, this looks like a strong buy, came to structure, left a wick to the upside, or to the downside rather. I go to a smaller time frame and I'm looking at the day. I just went to the daily. That looks like a buy. I go into the 1 hour, smaller time frame, and I'm like, wow, the daily says buy, and the 1 hour gives me an inverted head and shoulders pattern, which is a buy indication. You look at those factors, right? You have to understand each time frame's characteristics. There's not a specific time frame that you have to do this on, and then on this time frame you do that. No, you're identifying everything. I hate when people be like, yo, on the 5-minute, that's the only time frame. No, absolutely not. When you look at the chart, one, you're using the higher time frame to understand the direction and trend. You're using the smaller time frame, such as the 4-hour, even the 2-hour, the 1 hour, to get finer detail work in, to get a full understanding of, okay, well, I can see that right now gold's in a strong uptrend. If we go to the daily time frame, right? I don't need to go ahead and mark anything up on the daily because I'm just understanding that, okay, shit, this is pretty bullish. Actually, I would mark something up again because I can see that it came to a level of structure. You can see this on the 4-hour as well, right? But we're going to do it on the daily since we're here. Came to a level of structure and it left that wick to the downside, which is a bullish indication. Don't need to do anything else. I don't have to go ahead and start drawing trend lines, wait for the sun to go over the rainbow and then the moon to cross. No, I don't need to do any of that craziness. All I have to see is the market's bullish. I can see bullish indications. This is a bullish variant candle right here. So that's giving me the idea that the market might want to still buy. It even couldn't close below that level of structure as of yet. So when we go down to a smaller time frame, the only thing you're going to identify is further detail. Okay, well, my structure was there. Let's make it a little bit more perfect since we're on the 4-hour. We can see that structure and maybe the respect a little bit more than we could than on the daily. And then you can start doing a little bit more finer detail, things you couldn't see on the daily, such as this level of structure here. Couldn't really see that on the daily, right? I mean, you kind of can in a sense, but on the smaller time frame, the 4-hour, that structure is a little bit easier to see, right? So then you go ahead and you get your finer detail and you start marking that up. And then you're like, okay, well, I don't see, maybe there's no trend line. Maybe there's nothing else. You can't draw a fib in this because you're in a ranging market. Got it. Maybe you can start drawing, other forms of technical analysis if it's there, right? Let's see if I can even draw that. No. So if you can't add anything else on that time frame, then move on to the next one. You don't have to go crazy, start identifying 1,000,001 things. All I'm doing right now is I'm identifying the structure points right now. Because why? When we scale down to a smaller time frame, even though this happens, I know this strong ass sell and buy occurred, but we're right back within this ranging market, right? So all I have to do is sell from the highs, buy from the lows. That's it. I can go to a smaller time frame, such as the 1 hour, and identify candles like this to confirm potential sells. Obviously not right now because news is coming out, so we don't want to do that. But if there was no news coming out, if this was just all technical standpoint, that's it. You're using the time frames in accordance to your markup, right? The higher time frame, I was able to identify that the market is currently bullish. I scaled down to a smaller time frame to understand the levels of structure, just so that way if there is some, resistance or support at any point, there could be entries at those areas. But I'm also scaling down to smaller time frames because you're not able to see that inverted head and shoulders pattern. Again, just to show you guys, you can't see that bullish signal on the daily time frame. So when you see, okay, well, in the daily, that looks bullish. I need more information. Is that in fact bullish? Let me go to the 4-hour. Okay, I can see that inverted head and shoulders pattern a little bit there. I can see the structure that was respected before a little bit clear with another bullish variant style candle, right? You're able to identify, you have to identify everything on each time frame. So you're not just following, do I have to follow the higher time frame? No, you're following each time frame because that's going to tell you the true essence and direction of the market. So again, I can see that, okay, inverted head and shoulders pattern on smaller time frames, higher time frame, daily, weekly, monthly, no matter what time frame you look at on the higher one, it's bullish. So if you can identify even bullish or more bullish characteristics on the time frames you're scaling through, then you're getting your confirmation from that alone. So again, it's just to answer the question of should we have to follow the longer time frame? You have to follow each one. They have to follow each other. They have to give you the same idea, right? The analogy that I use is if you're in a room full of, if you're in a classroom, right, and there's 10 students, and the teacher asks a question, and all 10 students answer, 9 of them answer one way, and that one kid out of everybody answers differently, right? Then it's all mixed up. Then you know that there's something off. But if all 10 of those people answer the question the same way, and they're following the same direction, then you know the answer, no matter what, is going to be correct. I know that's probably a terrible analogy, but it's in the context of if one time frame's telling you one thing and you're not getting the same in the others, then you might want to redo your work. You might want to actually analyze in further detail to make sure that everything works together. But if you got everything daily, 4-hour, 2-hour, 1 hour, 15, 5-minute, all telling you the same thing, you're all answering the same question with the same answer, then you know what's happening next with that market. You know right now, well, higher time frame says bullish, lower time frame says bullish, or the 4-hour, 2-hour, they all say bullish together or bearish together, then you know exactly what's happening. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, right? It's just you have to make sure that everything works together. You're not following anything specific. Not one time frame is better than the other, right? You're not looking for this on this time frame. You know what I mean? It's everything must work together. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Because I get that question a lot about time frames, about what should I be doing on this and what should I be doing with that. The market's not going to give you exactly what you're looking at every time. So you have to be adaptable. So yeah, be very, very cautious with that. But yeah, let me see what else you guys got, if anything, in the chat. Nothing so far. Looks like you guys just paying attention, listening. I appreciate that. All right. So we're already on gold. I want to see, we have a few minutes left, about 8 minutes left for this news to come out, at least the first half of the news, if you will, because we have a lot more for the rest of the day. So I do want to see what the U.S. crosspair is going to be doing as far as when the news is actually released. As you see here, a lot of markets are just kind of like stuck, stagnant. They're not really giving us much. It is NFP week, and with the news being literally in a few minutes and even later on, the market really isn't going to give us too much, as you can see right there. So like a lot of these markets, Euro, USD, AU, like these things aren't really going to give us too much of moves, but I do want to identify what initially happens with them soon. I was looking at a trade on this. Hopefully this continues because my stop loss hasn't been hit, but I wouldn't be placing that as of yet because a lot of these markets, again, they will be heavily affected with the U.S. news. But let me see what else you guys got. Can you check Bitcoin? Yeah, I definitely can actually. So let's take a look at Bitcoin. So what's your question with Bitcoin? What is your idea with Bitcoin? Because I want to see what you guys think. I want to actually hear your opinions because I get a lot of mixed reviews on people with Bitcoin and like what their idea of what they think is going to happen. So Ifrin, what do you think is going to happen? Right? Because I have an idea. People call me crazy, but I have an idea, especially with how the technicals are looking with Bitcoin. Like it is extremely, it's kind of crazy that a lot, and I'll go over everything in total. of like what my thought process was before, what had happened, because it's pretty crazy that nobody saw what was going to happen earlier, and currently what's going to happen now, especially where I think it's going to happen now. But what do you guys think is going to happen with Bitcoin? Somebody said AUD CAD. Do you see inverted head and shoulders pattern? I did not see an inverted head and shoulders pattern when I was on AUD CAD. I was looking for potential sells on that. Just like I stated before, I was planning to sell Bitcoin. I do think that Bitcoin will sell. I do agree with that. I think that so I'm gonna go on the higher time frame, obviously, because Bitcoin is a relatively new market. I know everybody's like, it's 2013. That's still very new. You know what I mean? I know it's 10 years ago. Is that, yeah, 2023? Yeah, so about 10 years ago. So it's still a new market. But look at this market in general, because I do understand, I do know that we had our first rally, hip hip hooray. Then we sold off. Then we had a crazy rally again. That was great. Then we had an even higher rally. But look at what the market gave us. And I'm actually just going to do this. It literally set us up. It showed us exactly what's going to happen. This is why I pay attention to this pattern, in especially in higher time frames, but just in general, because it literally shows itself so many times that it's almost impossible to ignore. Somebody said Bitcoin going back to 3K. What's good, LA? I do believe that. I think you're absolutely correct. That's exactly kind of like where I was looking at, right? So the market showed us exactly what it wanted to do. It was plain in sight. So we had our structure. If it broke below those lows, that was it. And I'm talking about this on a technical standpoint. And obviously we know what happened. We already know what happened with Bitcoin. It eventually crashed much lower. And when it did, this was the next level of structure. I'm going to draw this out so you understand why it's important that we pay attention to price and why it's important that we mark up a chart the way that we do. So I'm going to draw that structure. So where do you think it dropped down to before having some form of, like, I would say, level of correction? Well, I forgot, it did come back up and retest. Like any head and shoulders pattern, it will come back up and retest that level, or that neckline, if you will. I'm trying to can we speed this up? I don't want to speed it up too much, but it's going way too slow in my opinion. Double that speed. There we go. So it came back, retested that level of structure. Not perfectly, but when it came back down, it hit this level of support. And once that was broken, you already know what's going to happen from there. It's going to create lower lows, lower highs. It's not going to continue to push up any higher than past, obviously, here. And everybody's like, no, it's the best time to buy. It's on sale. Definitely not. In my opinion, I'm going to get rid of this. I just wanted to show you like the idea of structure and why it's important. Because when we got here, you can see that there was some support. Couldn't initially break lower. We had some rejection from this area. So the market couldn't immediately break lower. We had some stagnation here until the market said, you know what? Nah, I'm good. And it had a strong, bearish, clean break below. And what do you think is going to continue to happen? We've already confirmed that sellers are taking over, that Bitcoin is continuing to be, I wouldn't say worthless, because Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going to change lives forever. And the reason being is because, do you think a lot of rich people, I mean, the people who actually invested into crypto have already taken their millions and billions from up here? And what do you think is going to happen? Obviously, when people liquidate and take their money and their profits, a market's not going to be as bullish as it was. And nobody with the right mindset, an investor, is going to want to buy a market when it was at 3,000 or wherever it was, and they're not going to want to buy it at almost 70,000. That's not the smartest thing. But with patience, and you allow a market to correct, you will then be able to buy at a better price. So I do think that with the idea of, let me scale down to a smaller time frame and mark this up now. I do think with the idea of reaching structure once again, even though you guys are like, but it broke above over here. I know structure is not always perfect, but we're going to cheat right now because we know that this was a level of resistance. We draw our zone out. That'll be the entire zone. I don't want my zone that big, so I'm going to try to be as specific as possible. Mark that up. So we're at a level of resistance, right? That's important. We identify, this is called price action trading. We're identifying the most relevant level of price, and we're identifying the actions that proceed within them, right? Those actions are important. because that's going to tell us exactly what's going to happen next. So when I'm on the higher time frame, being the daily, I can see what? Oh, wrong tool. A bearish engulfing candle. That bearish engulfing candle is important. Why? Because it happened at price. Happened at a level of resistance. After a strong bullish move, for some reason, it just got stuck right there. Stopped dead in its tracks. And we have a bearish engulfing candlestick to the downside. That's important. Because when we scale down to a smaller time frame, what else do we see? I mean, you can't get rid of the pattern. I mean, it's not my favorite pattern. It's not something I'm always trying to look for. But if it's there, I'm going to use it. Head and shoulders pattern. At a level of structure. Actions at price. So I think that in overall essence, Bitcoin will continue to drop much lower, at least, and this is going to sound crazy. I mean, I agree with LA. If we're looking at structure, the first level of structure is going to meet is here, obviously, because this is a newfound low. I mean, obviously it's been lower, but I'm talking about from these highs to these lows, it's created a new low. If anything, it's going to come back down to at like the $12,000 to $10,000 handle, just like roughly around this area. And if not, it's without a doubt reaching much lower. I would say right around here. So about $3,000, $2,000. So I think that right now, Bitcoin, the majority of all cryptos for that matter, will continue to be very, very bearish. Unfortunately, a lot of people are stuck in, positions and investments from all the way up here. But I think that with the right time, they'll be able to capitalize on investing back within this range or within this range here. These are my two biggest investment areas. So I'm going to actually rewrite that out. Invest monies. I know it's not spelt right. I'm doing that purposely. And I'm going to put invest even more monies. Because at least from here, the risk to reward is without a doubt in your favor, right? Because if you get in at $2,000, $3,000, and you can get 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 Bitcoin, and from let's say here to back up to 70,000, you're rich. You know what I mean? You got nothing else to do in your life. News, yeah, I forgot about news as well. So yeah, news just came out. So let's go take a look at gold. Hasn't done anything so far. Did give us a quick little push to the upside. So let's actually see. Came out negative for the dollar. Okay. Even with that though, that's that news. The biggest news is the FOMC statement at 2. The 10 o'clock news will give us momentum. It should give us a strong spike as well. But the real news is going to be at that 2 p.m. But we did get a reaction. It does seem as if it came out negative for the dollar. So it might mean that gold could spike up a little bit higher. But again, I want to see how this is reacting. Actually, I'll mark this up to the extreme highs because that is what needs to be broken. So I'll do that. So let's see how this initially reacts. But it did come out negative for the dollar. Somebody said, yep, I sold Bitcoin when it hit 30K, waiting now for it to go back down to 3K to buy some more. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, just to go back to Bitcoin real quick, BTC USD, just come back to here. I think that if we're looking at anything, why is this different? Oh, I know why. So if anything, if I'm going to look to invest, I would put the majority of my investment down here. I do think that the majority of cryptos will continue to push much lower. I think that the first stage of everyone getting in and getting rich was there. But now that it's a lot more accessible, I think it's a lot more popular in just every day life, if you will. Because Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, that was like a myth. That was kind of like underground talk. It was a foreign language at one point. But now everyone is understanding of it. Now everybody's accustomed to, okay, Bitcoin's a real thing. It's no longer one of those because it was associated with Ponzi schemes and dark web. But now that it's more of a legitimate asset, I think it's and even more accessible. I think now it'll be a lot more valuable because everybody will be able to get into it. At one point, it was like 1% of people were getting or invested into crypto. Now it's going to be, now they're projecting and saying that like 20% of America and across the world, like 60% of everyone in the, or 60% of the population will be invested into crypto if they could. Now that it's easily accessible and now a household name. So with that, I think over time, cryptocurrency will again be more valuable and increase in value. But right now, I don't think that's the case, only because, again, the idea of who invests into crypto the most? People with more money than we can fathom. And that's because the more money you can invest into crypto in the smallest move made, you can make a lot of money. So I even think that with that idea, with not so much investing going on, not so much money being pumped into it, everybody's being patient for these lows to actually be hit. And if these lows are hit, no matter who you are, how much money you have, what your background is, you'll be able to invest heavily into this and make some decent amount of profit. Because even $1,000, even if you can't get a full Bitcoin, you put $1,000, if it's down at these lows and it reaches back to these highs, without a doubt, you're coming out with six figures. You know what I mean? I remember somebody said that there was an article with somebody, they put $1,000 or $10 into Dogecoin, and it spiked up to where it was. I think at the highest point, their $10 was about 20 to 30,000. So even with a little bit of money from these lows, will make a substantial amount. So I think right now is all about patience, allowing this market to continue to push down much lower. If you are in positions on Bitcoin, I would say hold. You don't necessarily have to get out of them right now, because obviously I could be wrong. This could spike up a lot higher. It is giving us some bullish notation, but yeah, I think overall we'll be looking at continued sells with Bitcoin. If it does reach that $3,000 mark, and you guys don't hear from me after, if it spikes up from there, is because I quit the game. I'm good. I made my money from there. But let me go back to gold real quick. I want to see what that's doing. See if that's giving us any ideas. Okay, it's just still chilling right around that area. So let me just adjust that. So I mean, I might, depending on how this candle closes, might get stupid risky and place a sell, but it won't be for long. Like, it'll be for maybe like 20 to 30 pips. It'll be a quick move if in fact this is respected, but it doesn't necessarily seem like that. I just want to see how this closes. But yeah, let me see what else we have. Let me go take a look at some yen pairs really fast. Yeah, these are consolidated. So yen pairs are one of my favorite markets, or another, one of my favorites to trade. I love Gbpjpy. I love EURJPY. But even with something like this, is kind of stuck consolidated right now. So I'm really not going to look at much. If anybody's like, well, would you buy from that support range? I would not. What I would be looking for right now is a potential break below, which would confirm continued sellers, which is what I would most likely want to do with this, because obviously right now we can see GJ in more of a selling fashion, but I want to see this. Let me actually write this down really fast. If broken, look for strong sells. Either breakout or wait for retest. Now, if this is respected, I might, because if we just look at the current status from the lows where it's at now to these highs, this is a ranging market on the 1 hour and lower. So what I will do is this as well. This is what I mean about understanding the full extent of the market, because what I'm looking at is potential sells with this, but if we're in a ranging market, you can then buy from the support low to the resistance high. And I don't know how many pips that is, but let's say, and let's just say in a perfect world, no, we're not buying this right now, but let's just say even in this small range, we were able to say, you know what, I'm going to buy from here and I'm going to take profits from there. That's still about 70 pips. That's a decent trade. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like what I'll be looking at with GJ in this current standpoint. I wasn't looking at anything previously, but now we're kind of creating this range. I thought it might have already broken lower, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. So this might end up being a buy range. So if you guys would like to mark this up in that manner, for GJ, so I'll do this. Let me actually, ranging market, if support, oh my God, I can't spell. If support is, oh my God, I'm terrible right now, is respected, we may buy to the range high. So what I'm looking at with this, and this might happen while we're on, this might happen, you know, while you guys are looking at this on your own, but what I want to wait for is for this candle to close. It does look like it's closing extremely bearish. So that's why I'm waiting for this to close. I'm not just going to jump into this trade as far as a buy is concerned, just because we're at a level of support. With how this candle is looking, this one that's currently open, it looks as if it could close and might close extremely bearish. If not, because we still have a little bit over a half hour, if we can leave this wick and the candle close above the structure, leave it larger wick as well, showing more rejection, then I will go ahead and place a buy. Let's just say perfect world here, closes above, leaves a wick. I will buy from there and take profits at these highs. Then obviously from these highs in a ranging market, if you get sell confirmations, you can sell from the highs back down to the lows. And obviously if the low is broken, you now don't need to do anything else because you caught that entire move. I do think the majority of the market on GJ will continue to sell, but I want to wait to see if there's a potential short-term trade that we could place in the meantime before that sell occurs, if this isn't the sell that's happening already. So we got to wait to see. Let me see what you guys got in the chat for me. Can double top only be at the top of the uptrend? Because I see a double top and triple bottom on GJ. Oh, I see what you mean. So you're talking about, oh, let me not delete everything. You're just talking about this right here, the double top here and a triple bottom there. Well, this would not really, I wouldn't say this is a triple bottom as of yet, because that looks like it's about to be close to the downside. But I mean, can you consider this a double top? Yeah, you could consider that a double top. I would say that your best bet when you're looking at those type of reversal patterns is to have them happen at the end of a trend. I think that's the best idea. You're getting the more, I would say, probable idea. But can you call this a double top, a double bottom? I mean, you can call that a double top, I guess. And can you call that a triple bottom if that level's respected? Yeah. But then you can't consider this a double top because obviously that part would not have been broken. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't make that a valid double top. So that's a really good question, to be honest. But I would say it's really dependent on the situation. So like right now, let's say GJ does in fact break below the structure here and obviously below that point, then this would not be considered a triple bottom. This would just be considered a double top with the middle points or the structure of it being broken, which would be considered a strong sell, right? Now, if this is respected, obviously this would not be considered a double top, and then you could possibly consider this a triple bottom and then look for your buys, if that makes sense. I know that might sound a little confusing, but yeah, I mean, everything is dictated, like, because again, if you have a double top and it does this, that's not a double top. This part has to be broken. If that part's not broken, then it's not considered a double top. If it does this, even though it doesn't reach back to those highs, comes back down, you want to say that's a triple bottom, that's okay, because that might be the case. But if not, and you get that, you get a little correction and then a break, then you can consider that a double top. But right now, we have to wait. That's a really good question. That's a very, I would say, situational idea, because it really depends on if that market structure is either broken or if it's respected, right? And that's all based off the close of this initial candle. If it breaks lower, double top. If it closes above, triple bottom. So that and then you might get the case for a triple top, right? And then you get a sell from there. So that's a really good question. I've never actually seen it or have ever really thought that before, to be completely honest. Anytime I'm looking at, I'm looking at a sell, I'm looking at sell features. I'm not looking at anything to really deter me from that. Sometimes that's good. So most of the time, or sometimes that's, really, really good. But, sometimes it could be bad because I might miss something. But for the most part, if I'm looking at continued sells, I would look more along the lines of the double top, not really even look at that triple bottom, to be honest. But that's a really good question. I'll dig deep into that, see if anybody else could answer that in a more professional manner. Because I know people that strictly use breakout patterns. Like when I mean breakout patterns, I'm talking about like the wedges, pennants, flags, stuff like this. They strictly only use like these type of patterns, and their specialty is double tops, double bottoms, patterns like that. So and they don't use fibs, they don't use structure, they don't use anything else but these type of patterns. So I'll actually ask and see if he has a better answer for that, and which one he would take into consideration more in that aspect. That's a really good question. Now I'm interested in answering that better. But yeah, I mean, in this case, what time is it? We have about 30 minutes left for this candle to close. I might get stupid risky and place a buy here on GJ, which I think would be the most high prop or the high risk setup, only because I do think that GJ will continue to be bearish. But let me actually do this. Let me see exactly where it's went. I'll leave my structure there. So I might just go ahead and start trading this small initial range. Now that the 30-minute new candle has opened. Okay, so that 30-minute candle has left a wick to the downside. And again, all I'm doing is using time frames to confirm each other. On the 1 hour, you can currently see the respect, right? Because it's within that same candle. On the 30-minute, we can see that it currently has been respected. We have that wick to the downside on that 30-minute candle. So that might give us the idea that this might be the best potential buy range. So depending, I might go ahead and start looking for some buys on GJ here shortly. I still want to wait. I still want to allow this to develop a little bit more, because this is very much a bearish candle, or bearish engulfing as well. But it still has a time to end even more to the downside. So I want to see how this initially closes before we do anything else. But yeah, any other questions? Any other markets you guys want to take a look at? Let me go take a look at gold, see what it's doing. Look at that. See, that's why we always wait. We allow the market to develop. I might actually go ahead and place my sells here shortly as well. Just like we were saying before, the news was coming out, so we have to let that truly show us what it wants to do. If this level of structure was going to be respected, which it currently is seeming and looking as if it's being respected. If you guys are confused on what I mean by that, anytime you're at a level of structure, wicks equal rejection. That is a strong, strong indication of obviously buyers no longer being as involved in the market, and sellers just beating them up saying, get out of here, we're taking over. So right now I do think that we might start looking for some sells on gold as well. So depending on how, and it's weird because news came out negative for the dollar, which would mean that gold should have continued to skyrocket much higher. But depending on how this closes, we might go ahead and start looking for sells. And I'll make sure that I put that trade out for you guys in the Discord as well. I'll make sure that you guys are receiving that knowledge and that education, and obviously the profits as well. So if you guys are not a part of the Discord, go ahead and go to the description below. The link is in there, so you guys can be able to join as well. But yeah, seems like we might get some sells on gold. We might get some buys on GJ. We just have to allow these markets to develop a little bit more. This is the patient game. This is where a lot of people fuck up when they trade. They just want to trade. It's entry, it's at support. No. Even at support, it's not the best idea to buy, because if you're in a bearish market, that support is probably just a minor barrier before it just builds up the needed momentum to break lower. So I want to allow this to develop. I need the markets to truly show me what's going to happen next before I make any type of move. So let's see what initially happens there. Let's go to AUD CAD. People were asking about AUD CAD. Again, that's actually a really good segment, or segue rather, into allowing the market to develop. So now we're really back into that structure. So we might be able to get some potential trades there. Let me see what you guys got in the chat. The news just pushed the price on DXY into an inverted on the 1 hour. Let's take a look at the DXY. Oh, let me reframe this. So we spiked a little bit higher here on AUD CAD, literally right into the exact zone where structure was literally broken. So this might give us a better opportunity. Actually, I'll leave that out for now. We'll see if that takes into consideration later. DXY. Ooh. See, that's really weird though. And you said on the 1 hour inverted. I don't see an inverted on the 1 hour. If you, I see, if you're talking about this, that, yeah, but not an inverted. DXY it's been tricky because it's been so choppy. Like, that's choppy. I don't care what anybody says. Even though it's very much in a downtrend, I do agree with that. We haven't really been able to get a clear picture of what it wants to do. I don't care what anybody says. This is not favorable to trade. Any of that market movement is not favorable to trade. If I go into a higher time frame, we might be able to do something. But yes, this is a level of support that is currently being respected. That's the only thing I would really dictate. Can I draw the channel that I want to draw? So we kind of are looking at that sense as well. So we are in a very bearish market with the DXY, meaning that the dollar, the US dollar, is not doing so great, which is honestly, I'm not surprised. We are kind of due for another recession, which sucks, but we kind of are. But yeah, I would think in a sense that even with the DXY giving us not too much to go off of, the whole premise, the whole idea is it up, is it down? Because that'll show us what the US dollar is doing in general. That bitch down. So yeah, very much the dollar is, it seems as if it's going to continue to lose a lot of value. Today and Friday will be determining factors. Obviously with the Fed's, with the funds rate, and then we have NFP, non-farm payrolls, which will obviously dictate a lot for us then too. So that will show us a lot, but I think the dollar will continue to lose value. Let me see. What does kill zone mean? A potential entry. It's just a fancy word of saying potential entry. And that's just the way I say it. There's not, it's just, everything is just based off my preference. And let me see. I don't think that might be why all cross pairs are pushing down. Even the news was bad on the bottom. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're looking at this. I mean, yeah, in a sense, you can kind of consider that a triple top or a triple top, an inverted head and shoulders pattern. Now my mind's all over the place with patterns and shit. I mean, yeah, you can. I would consider that in a sense, but not really, not anymore at least, because if you're looking at any pattern, so let's say inverted head and shoulders pattern in this case, right? Let's say you do break above this point, you don't want it. I mean, if it does come back to retest better, cool. You don't want it to come back down, right? Because that kind of invalidates the whole premise and idea of the pattern, and it did exactly that. You know what I mean? If anything, if it came back, so it was broken, if it did that, retested somewhere, it's not perfect, but just to give you an example, if it did that and then started buying, 100%. But it didn't, right? It's right back within that price, and it's continuing to push lower. So it's hard for me to determine and say that, yeah, that's a really strong inverted head and shoulders pattern, because it's still very much within that price point when it's not supposed to be. So you do want to be very careful with that. You know what I mean? You don't want to just, inverted head and shoulders pattern is going to buy. Yeah, it's not really giving us that idea anymore. So I see where you're at. I mean, I see it a little bit even easier on the 4 hour. But again, coming back into that price point, not the best idea. If anything, I mean, oh, that's already kind of broken in a sense too. This is another, I'll get rid of this. This is another structure point that could be held. And if you guys are wondering why I would consider that a structure point, current price, look at previous price, previous respect, even the breaks above, and the market came right back down to test that point. That's important. Respect here, respect. It broke below before it could break above here again. it had a level of respect. You know what I mean? Respect there and respect there. So that's why I'm marking that up as my level of structure and why that could also be held. Because I think a lot of people get mixed up with the idea of just support resistance. No, I'm marking up price points, points of interest, where actions have happened before. I will look for actions to happen there again. If it bought from this point before, what makes you think it doesn't have the opportunity to buy there again? And especially in a market like this one, it's just kind of like in this weird ranging consolidated trend, if you will. I know that makes no sense, but neither does this market because it's just like all over the place. Even with something like this, the only thing I would really use is structure, because you're not going to be able to use any type of trend lines. You're not going to be able to use any fibs in such a ranging market. You're only using fibs in a trending market, creating higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs. So I would think that even with this, DXY is still very bearish. But yeah, I want to see what initially happens with this. DXY is buying at discount. That's a good way to put it. That the DXY is buying, or we can buy at a discount. I mean, that's a good way to look at it. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking at, I mean, and I'll go back to gold really quick. Even though, I mean, damn, that is very much bearish now. I mean, even with this though, I mean, it's still kind of hard to say that this is going to be or remain bearish, because again, this news later on, this news will really show us what's good. So yeah, even in this little consolidated range, I really wouldn't be doing too much. Let's see some other. Let me see what other cross pairs are doing. So that's bullish. That's weirdly bullish. So it's weird, right? So we had bullish notation on what you call it, or bearish on gold, and like other pairs like EU and GU are currently bullish. So that's where some things get mixed up, because if gold is pushing down, EU, GU, all those, they should be pushing down much lower as well. Okay. So I'm going to take a very stupid trade. I'm going to go ahead and buy GJ. Right now, this is stupid because one, I'm still not letting this fully develop. I should be letting this candle actually close, but we are in this weird little ranging market. So I'm going to take a risk. You guys do not, and I repeat, you do not have to do this. You do not have to place a trade. If you just want to watch in the background, that's cool. You don't have to risk it. I don't believe that this is a very smart or high probable trade that I'm looking at right now. Just being very vocal and open about that. Obviously, when I do find a good trade, I send that out to you guys as a signal in the Discord. Obviously, you guys know those are extremely profitable, and I only let you guys know when it is. I only send a signal out when I believe it's going to be profitable. This right here, I don't think is the best idea. So I'm taking a very big risk on this. My stop loss is going to be about 25 pips. And where's my phone? Here's my phone. Let me give me 1 second while I go on to. Where is it? My MT4. Okay. Now, okay, so I'm looking for GJ really quick so that way I can place a buy. All right. So I place a very small buy on this. If you guys have as well, that's perfectly fine. If not, you don't have to worry about it. I know our JPY trade from earlier, I think it was earlier this week. I think I sent out 2 trades. You guys should have been profitable on both. Extremely profitable on both at that. So if you guys don't want to risk it, if you do not want to place this trade, that's perfectly fine. Especially with, I know it's US cross news later, but that could definitely take a huge impact across the board. So you don't want to go ahead and risk it. If you don't want to risk it, you're absolutely fine. I'm in buys on GJ, waiting for 4-hour low to be broken. If you're looking for buys and you're waiting for the 4-hour to be broken, you shouldn't be in buys. You want to be looking at sells, but I'm taking a very risky trade on this. It's really dumb. I say it's stupid because one, I personally believe GJ will continue to sell. Overall, I think the bias is looking to the downside. But with this small range, with us coming back to structure, with the market currently respecting it, I want to see if we can get at least a little short-term trade to at least back to the range high. Now imagine if GJ just said, you know what, I'm not even a sell, you're wrong, I'm a long-term buy, then we can extend our take profits. This is why I'm placing this as a risky trade, or I'm placing it because there's a potential for it to continue much higher and being what was, I think, like a 60 pips 60 pip take profit could end up being 145 or even greater, right? Because it definitely can't come back up to these relative highs. So that's why I'm placing the trade. But overall, I think it's a very risky trade. I think that GJ will continue to sell, but I want to see if we can just get a small little trade from here. Again, I don't believe this is a very wise idea, though. Just being honest. Because if I see a break below this structure, you damn straight I'm going to be selling this heavily too. But if we can get a small little trade, why not? And my lot size is not big. I did not go ahead and place 125, lots on this by no means. No, it's to liquidate long-term buy for me. Okay. Prices spending time there. Okay. I respect it. I respect everybody's method, strategy, thought process. I mean, I'm currently looking at a buy here as well, so we might be both looking at different strategies, but the same idea. And if it makes profits, we're both right no matter what. So let's see how this works out. Again, I do not believe this is a very high probable trade setup, but if you guys would like to place this trade, this is what it looks like. So this is going to be considered my take profits 1. Take profits uno. And ranging market, blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'll just leave that there. So again, take profits uno. And then this would be take profits, or ultimate take profits. Because obviously that is a high point. That is a level of strong resistance. And if the market ever reaches that high again, there's a strong potential sell-off that can happen. So let's say it does this, comes back up, reaches that high, then we can go ahead and look for a potential sell. If that's broken to the upside, then obviously we know for a fact that that's going to continue to buy, and we don't take profits whatsoever. Can you please look at CAD CHF? What is your idea with CAD CHF? Oh, there's nothing with CAD CHF. You shouldn't even look at this. There's literally, you're not doing anything with this. This is not. When you see a market stuck consolidated, ranging, no volatility, move on. You don't do anything else. It sold from those highs. It'll probably reach back down to where I have marked up here. That's about it. But as far as that, you want to move on. You don't want to look at this. It's not giving us anything, right? It's not giving you a potential trade signal, trade setup. It's not giving you anything. So I would say, if anything, you should move on to a different chart, because right now there's no volatility on this. It's not really giving you much. I would choose a different market to look at. And that's not to sound disrespectful. That's just being very real. Anytime I see a chart that I can't initially be like, is it even decent enough to trade? Can I see anything valid without marking anything up? If I can't see, like, okay, I can't see this. If I'm not able to identify anything right off the bat without anything marked up, it's probably not worth it, right? Again, this little small consolidated range, probably not the best, and there's no volatility. So I would think that, I'd probably move on to something a little bit different, because this is not a range worthy of really looking at, because I think the pip count is like 17 pips. So if anything, I would choose a more, I would say, volatile market, more lively market, something that's actually giving you moves, something that's giving you some readings, right? Is leaving some form of clue behind. But this right here, I would move on. I wouldn't pay attention to this as of yet. That might give you an idea, but not yet. So I would be very careful with that. And let me just take a look back at gold. It's very weird how, not weird. I know the news just came out and it's kind of like all over the place, but gold is being its own little character. So we'll come back to that as well. But let me see what other questions you might have, and we'll go from there. But any questions, any other markets you guys want to take a look at? If so, let me know. For CAD CHF, I'm serious. Don't look at that. That's not something you should really pay attention to. It's not really giving you much. So I would move on from something like that. And I'll be looking at, so I'm just going to share some charts that we were looking at before that have been marked up. So this could be a potential sell kill zone, right? Meaning, exactly that for the person who asked, sell kill zone. If it reaches that zone, you probably want to look for sells. So I'll be looking at potential sells on AUD CAD. Again, I'll be sharing this analysis or any trades with you guys within the Discord. If you guys are not a part of the Discord, feel free to go into the description below, take the link, join the Discord. If you guys can do me one favor, if you haven't already, like this video. It definitely helps grow the community. We have been growing exponentially. We've been seeing a lot more new faces, a lot more continued viewers. I highly appreciate you guys. So if you guys can, if you haven't liked it already, please go ahead and do so. I'm going to be sharing as much analysis, value, and education and profits as much as I can. I do have a lot of ideas that I want to, really give you guys as far as value is concerned in the future. I just want to make sure that we're steadily growing. So if you can like the video, definitely do that. I appreciate it. GBP AUD. That's something I really wouldn't pay attention to as well right now. Yeah, I mean, it's selling. It's definitely selling. But again, like this isn't. I don't like this either. Yeah, you're at a level of structure, but this really isn't giving you much as well. I would even let this develop a little bit more. I mean, you're just really looking at these two structure points. But besides that, it's a seller's market, so you probably want to look for continued sells. But as far as anything, yeah, this isn't really something I would even really trade or look at as well. Again, you don't want something that's too choppy, doesn't have enough volume. The only thing I would see on the daily is just broke lower, respected that structure. So probably still looking for sells on GBP AUD. That's probably about it. But on a smaller time frame aspect, there's really not much. Right, came back to respect that level of structure. I know that's a wick to the upside. Doesn't look like much, but yeah, not something I would really look at as well. And again, not to sound rude or disrespectful, it's just the lack of volatility, the lack of trade or clues that's being left behind. So the only thing I would really think of is with or when this gets some volatility, that could be a potential buy zone. And that's risky because you are very much in a strong sell, but I mean, buy from there. So that's probably your best bet. But yeah, this is probably something I wouldn't be looking at as well. Right? Somebody said GJ went down. Yeah, that's fine. That's what I said. Probably not the best idea. I didn't even put my stop loss yet, so I'm still in it. But if you guys put a stop loss, yeah, that's why I was like, it's probably not the best idea. I personally wanted to see if this candle, how the candle closed on the 1 hour, or just in general, because I think this, the 4 hour also closes within the next 10 minutes. But yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, it's probably this dumbest idea. I would only put out real trades for you guys, obviously in the Discord, when I'm very confident, when there has all the stars have aligned. I know Gbpjpy, I think I gave you guys another one too, but and that's still selling as well. But I remember Gbpjpy, we sold from somewhere over here, and we took profits down here, right? But that's when I'm confident on a trade, that's when I'm just yeah, no, take that shit. But I'm also very vocal when I'm like, nah, you know what I mean? Because there's some times where you should not be taking a trade, but I'll always let you guys know the risk beforehand, whether it's a good idea or whether it's not. So that was a bad idea, but I just wanted to see. I wanted to test that out. But I will, once I find if AUD CAD might be one of them that I'll share with you guys. Let me see AUD CHF. Okay, so AUD CAD, AUD CHF. So these are two trades that, if anything, if they do look like they're going to be very profitable, I'll go ahead and send these up to you guys as actual signals and trades. Obviously, if it breaks above our trend line, it continues to break above our structure, will kind of change our bias. But this is where you allow the market to truly develop, show you what's initially going to happen. So I want to see this trend line be hit, and I want to see AUD CAD show some respect around this area as well. And then I'll send those out as trades. Gold still just doing its own thing, just kind of chilling within the mix. We have not placed a sell or anything on this as of yet, or any trade on this as of yet. Again, with news coming out, that's going to be very difficult. You said I'm waiting for that wick to the left be taken out on the H4. Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, go for it, man. You know what I mean? If you want to wait for that candle to be taken out, which I mean, like I was saying before, I was like, this is still very much bearish. I think overall this is bearish. The candle was closing and looking very bearish. I think it might continue to sell. You know what I mean? Even though I was looking for those little buys, I just wanted to take a small risk, see what would initially happen. I'm still personally in this because I'm gonna close it manually after the session. I really didn't put any risk to this, so the loss for me is really nothing. and I could risk a little bit more because what could end up happening, or what could end up happening, is it looks bearish now. Next thing you know, large wick is left, or the next candle says, nah, we're good. Continues to spike up much higher. So let's see what initially happens with that. But yeah, I want to see, let's see some other charts real quick. Okay, still just kind of like stuck and chilling there. So a lot of these markets are waiting for the news to come out. Like there really isn't much else. With the US dollar, we're not going to get too much volatility, especially now that some news has been released and hasn't really given us any type of movement or strong idea. So except for like GU, that thing is kind of like pushing up higher. But yeah, anything else? Let me see what you guys got in the chat. And do you have like free Discord or free Telegram? Did you hear what I just said? Did you literally hear what I just said? And I've said, join our Discord. The link is in the description below. I've said that already. Take a look. This is what I'm saying. Y'all got to pay attention a little bit. I'm giving y'all all this. Look a little bit. Dig a little bit deeper. Yes, I have a Discord. It is in the description below. I got you. But yeah, any other questions? Anything else you guys got for me? If not, I will be concluding. I got to start trading some binary options for legacy students. We had like a break even, and then earlier this morning we had a winning trade, and it ended up as a fucking loss. I have absolutely no idea even how. Like literally, it was in profits. Next thing you know, it was still in profits, but then pocket options closed it as a loss, and I watched it happen. I was so mad. I have no idea why that happened, but I was like, okay, let me come back to it later. So I'll be trading binary for our binary auto trader. I'll also be looking for any trade setups for our Forex auto trader, and looking to potentially send out any trade signals that do look like they're favorable. Again, one of them here being AUD CHF, another one potentially being AUD CAD. If gold seems as if it might give us some respect and some type of sell, I might put that out as a signal. It really depends on what markets are giving us what and how they're reacting around certain areas. But yeah, if you guys have anything else, feel free to let me know. Somebody said, I just joined. Thanks for your service. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to serve my country. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. With that being said, I will conclude for today. I got to start trading some binary options for legacy students. Again, if there is any trades that I do see that could be beneficial and profitable for not just students themselves, but for you guys as well, I'll go ahead and share those for you guys as well. These brokers are shady on binary sometimes. That had happened to me. Yeah, that was really weird. Honestly, that kind of threw me off a little bit. That made me angry because no joke, and I remember exactly what it was. It was a Gbpjpy sell. It was literally the most perfect entry. It dropped about like 10, 20 pips, and like 10, 15 pips. I'm lying. And in binary options, when you're doing 1 minute time frame, 1 minute expiry, that's perfect. I seen it close out as an actual win, and it showed a loss, and we lost money. And I'm like, what the fuck? I mean, I was really, really mad because yesterday we went break even, and then I was like, okay, we'll come back this morning and come back strong. And the first trade was a win, but it closed as a fucking loss. So I'm going to be trading binary. I'm going to be looking to place as many entries as I possibly can for students, so that way I can make back the break even and put them back into profits and then some. I want to really excel because for me, binary is actually pretty, I wouldn't say easy. Nothing's easy. But I've been very consistent, very profitable with it. So I want to make sure students can reflect with that as well. So I'll be trading binary here, legacy students, if you guys are on. So if you guys are connected, you guys will be seeing some trades being placed. But yeah, with that being said, we'll conclude for today. We'll catch back on first thing tomorrow morning. Legacy students, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I'm always here. If anybody has any questions, whether you're a student or not, feel free to hit me up on Facebook, Discord, Instagram, smoke signal, carrier pigeon, message in a bottle. Does not matter. I definitely got you. But yeah, with that being said, we'll conclude for today. I'll catch back up with you guys first thing tomorrow morning. And yeah, stay profitable, stay happy. Have an amazing day, everybody. God bless. I appreciate every last one of you guys.